Hey guys, it's Cam from Craft and Tailored, and in this episode of What Is On My Wrist, we are talking about a Rolex GMT from 1977 with a very rare and important bezel insert, sometimes referred to as the blueberry. All right, so this is the first GMT that we've featured on the series. And it's not that I don't like GMTs, I'm actually a huge fan of the GMT reference. I just wanted to wait for something that was worthy of some wrist time, and I wanted to make a splash into the GMT reference range, so to speak. So this being a 1977 GMT, which also bears or possesses, or whatever you want to call it, a rail dial. Additionally, it has a very rare bezel insert, which is referred to as a blueberry. The bezel insert itself is all blue. Let's talk a little bit about the GMT and also kind of give you a little bit of background on the GMT holistically here. So in 1954, the Boeing 707 came into production, and Pan Am was the biggest, I guess, adopter or user of the Boeing 707. The reason why that's important is because that was essentially the dawn of the jet age, which made air travel more accessible to the general population. Also transcontinental flight, meaning we could fly for extended periods of time across international date lines and time zones. So in 1954, the same year that Boeing introduces the 707, Rolex introduces the Bakelite Gmt reference 6542. Now the biggest difference between a 1675 and a 6542, outside of just fonts and dials and things like that, is the absence of crown guards. So 1675s have crown guards, which protect the crown. Also, 1675s have anodized aluminum bezels as opposed to a Bakelite radium filled bezel, which you would see in a 6542. So those are the biggest differences. At the end of 1959 into 1960, Rolex updates the GMT reference and introduces the 1675, which is what we're showcasing here today. The 1675 was in production from late 59, early 1960, all the way up till 1979 with the introduction of the 16750. So let's talk a little bit about this specific 1675 and what makes this example very desirable and rare outside of just the blue bezel insert. So this dial is a Mark III dial, and a Mark III dial is essentially the most rare dial of all the matte dial 1675 GMTs. There's a couple nicknames for the dial. One most common is Radial dial or a mini dial. And the Mark III differentiates itself with the text on the dial, but the most visual difference is that the lume plots appear to be a little bit smaller and they're actually closer into the center of the dial. So Mark III dials can be seen in around the 4.1 to 5.4 million serial range. So that's kind of the range in which we see the rail dial. So what is a blueberry bezel? Essentially, a blueberry bezel is a bezel that is all blue, and it has the nickname blueberry. I guess it's kind of the same color as blueberry. Every time I hear blueberry or I think about blueberries, I think about, what's her name? Violet, whatever her name is in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, when Willy says, "Don't eat the gum," and then she turns into a blueberry and they send her downstairs for the official juicing. Love that part of the film, but it's pretty blue. It's blueberry blue, and it's very, very striking. Blueberry inserts were not really officially offered by Rolex. They are a Rolex part. The reason why we know that is because we do see them on pieces, specifically for the Eastern market or within UAE military pieces. The blueberry insert was either a special order insert or something that was only made for the UAE Ministry of Defense. So they're quite rare. In all of our years of doing this, which is now pushing about 13 years, I have had 3 blueberries, and this is one of the 3 that I've ever had. So 1, it's a rail dial. 2, it's a blueberry. The condition of the piece is superb, and they are quite rare. On the wrist, it's really, really nice and very striking. I really like the all blue look. One question that we get a lot is, how do we know if the blueberry bezel is real and or if it's fake and or blah, blah, blah? Okay, a couple of things. One, the bezel on the triangle actually has a ghosted triangle on the inside of the 12 o'clock marker. So if you look at that, what you'll see is you'll see kind of a ghosted triangle on the inside of the triangle at the 12 o'clock position on the bezel insert itself. So that is one characteristic. The other thing too is the font. So all of the fonts are correct and in alignment with what we have been seeing come out of Rolex for this time period. The other kind of tip and secret is on the back side of the insert, there is actually a pin dot that is at the 12 o'clock marker. And that pin dot was basically used to align the bezel into the jig or vise or whatever it was at time of production. So there's also a pin dot on the back of the insert at the 12 o'clock marker. So those are things that we use to authenticate these inserts and differentiate them from aftermarket or fake inserts. So these watches were made for aviation capabilities. Obviously there's a tremendous amount of history between Pan Am in 1954 and Rolex developing a watch that they could issue to their pilots. But this again is, I think, just a very special example. The condition is really, really nice and we don't get these in often at all. And that's why it is on my wrist and was worthy of some wrist time. So this example, unfortunately, is not for sale. This watch came in from the original owner that we originally sourced the watch from. Not the original owner, but a collector that we sourced the watch for originally. And the watch was actually live and on our site for, I think, less than 24 hours, maybe 8 or 9 hours. So these are very desirable. There's not a lot of them ever on the market at any given time, and they typically sit within the hands of collectors and within those collections. So that's why it is on my wrist. That's why I wanted to talk about it. Additionally, I'll provide a link below in the comments or the description, whatever you want to call it, to a couple of great articles about the blueberry bezel inserts and also to this specific example of a Mark III 1675 so that you guys can check it out. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. One other thing too, we've been getting a lot of comments. How do we stay up to date on what it is that you guys are acquiring in inventory? Best way to do that is head over to craftandtailor.com and sign up for our insiders newsletter so that we can keep you guys in the loop through our email marketing stuff. So in any case, thanks for tuning in, guys. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to also check us out on Instagram at craftandtailored. Until next time, see you guys later.